welcome to this edition of the Quantum Experience. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Kurt Stokbro. Kurt is the CEO at Sparrow Quantum in Copenhagen in Denmark. Kurt, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Matthew, for inviting me.
Cool. So just to start the video, I usually like to start with a quick introduction. So Kurt, tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, so I'm a Dane and I live here in Copenhagen. And my background is that I'm a quantum physicist. I have a PhD in physics. And I went on the kind of academic track, took a PhD and had an employment at the university. But then 20 years ago, I started my first spin out. That the name of this was Atomistics, and we developed quantum chemistry simulation software for the semiconductor industry. So the first company actually went bankrupt. So that was a big learning experience. And then I started my second venture, QuantumWise, based on a lot of the technology we developed in Atomistics. And the second time, things went quite well. We had a very good team, and also the market was more mature at that point. So the semiconductor industry, the transistors were getting smaller and smaller, and they needed to model materials down at the atomic scale, and this is what we provided in QuantumWise. And I grow the company organically from 5 people to 40 when I sold it off to Synopsys, which is one of the major EDA players in the industry. And now it's part of Synopsys, and it's called Synopsys Denmark, and it's one of the biggest sites in Europe of Synopsys. So it's great to see that what we did in QuantumWise actually have a lot of impact in the industry now. And my dream was that the software we developed in my company would influence the semiconductor industry. And actually, this is the case today. So I worked a while for Synopsys, but then I wanted to do something else. So I started as a tech investor. I have invited in a number of different tech companies, startups. One of them was Sparrow, and Sparrow Quantum. And I got more and more involved in the company and found it really interesting. So then I ended up as a CEO of the company. So I never thought I should have a full-time job again, but I mean, here I am, and having a lot of fun working for Sparrow Quantum, and it gives me kind of a front seat to follow all the exciting development going on in the quantum industry today.
Cool. I also was lucky enough to spend some time in your office a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if making coffees is part of your job description, but you made a good one.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about Sparrow Quantum and maybe some of the technology and what's the latest.
Yes. So Sparrow Quantum, we are a component provider for the photonics quantum industry. Most people are aware of a laser and how it impacted the telecom industry. It's a core component in most telecom technologies. In quantum, you need a different light source. You need to control light at the single photonic particle levels. So what we develop is a deterministic single photon source. So we can control light emission at the single photonic level, and we can do it with very high efficiency and such that all the photons are indistinguishable. So actually we have the world record for a commercial product. So we deliver this product to research group that work in photonics, but also now we work with different companies that are develop photonic quantum computers, and For instance, we have a close collaboration with Orca Computing, and recently we delivered a system to the NQCC testbed in the UK, where we combine our single photon source with the Orca technology. It can also be used for quantum communication, QKD, or the quantum internet. So these are other areas we are looking into. Maybe I should also tell a little about the technology. So the founder of Sparrow Quantum is Peter Lodal. So he has a background as a professor at the Niels Bohr Institute. So he started this research 15 years ago. It's based on artificial atoms, so-called quantum dots. It's a solid state material that we grow, and it has a few nanometers wide. So it's a bunch of atoms, and they act as a single atom, and you can through a photonic structure around this quantum dot, we can control the light emission. Peter Lodal had developed this technology over the past 20 years. We have a number of patents protecting our technology, and he have received funding from the Danish Research Council, the Basic Research Council in Denmark, the European Research Council. So more than 50 million euros have gone into understanding and developing this technology. So we are standing on very solid ground, and we are now taking this research and making it into commercial products. So one important factor is also information is also that last year Peter he took leave from the university to work full time in Sparrow Quantum. So now he joined me in the management and is making the future strategy of the company. And there's a number of new products that we will bring to market in the coming years based on his recent research.
This is a question I like to ask everyone, but it's what was your first exposure to quantum physics or quantum technology?
Yeah, so that was at the university level when I started, did my undergraduate studies. Actually, I studied in Aarhus. It's not the capital of Denmark. And there at the Aarhus University, we had researcher Pablo, who actually was a co-worker of Niels Bohr. So
oh wow, okay.
And he was teaching the quantum mechanics, and it was actually a lot of he taught it in a historical fashion. So we got all the steps in how it was invented, because he was there on the front seat working together with Niels Bohr and developing a lot of the quantum mechanics. And then later on, I moved here to Copenhagen and took more advanced courses in quantum mechanics. And actually there, my teacher was Ove Bohr, the son of Niels Bohr. So that was also quite an experience having him as a teacher. So, and it was with his own lecture notes, handwritten lecture notes. So that was amazing. So yeah. But that was my exposure to the basic theory of quantum mechanics. Then later on, I did a PhD that was in electronic structure calculation and computer simulations of quantum mechanics. So, and there I learned about how to solve the Schrödinger equations in different approximations, in particular using density functional theory. So I spent more than 20 years of my life doing density functional calculations. And one of my contributions was to develop the theory of DFT into how can you calculate electrical currents. And that was the main product of my company, to use quantum mechanics to calculate electrical currents in nanostructures and apply it into the semiconductor industry.
I wasn't expecting such a good answer to that, Kurt. I just smiled through that whole answer then. Okay, so this is something that you touched upon actually in your first answer. So, are there any mistakes that you've made in throughout your career that was a big learning experience for you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I started my first company, actually, I couldn't get any venture funding. They thought, I mean, I was just a stupid professor coming from the university. So they wanted somebody with business experience. So actually, I found a businessman that had a PhD in chemistry. And when he joined, he was very good at attracting funding to the company. So we raised a lot of VC funding and grew very rapidly. But he was not a good person to run a company. So he was more like a salesperson, and there was a lot of things not working in the company. Actually, I was not full time. I still had a position at the university, but I felt that a lot of things were not done right. But somehow I just thought, okay, but I mean, there are more experienced business people here, so I should just trust them. But I think that's what I've learned. I mean, if you should trust your gut feeling. If something feels wrong, it's probably wrong. So I think that's when I started my second company. There, I had the controlling vote. So when I was the CEO, and there I much more trusted my own kind of gut feeling and the direction I would like to take the company. So I think that's something I learned, to have more self-confidence.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard lesson to learn, I guess, but I guess it's an important one. Do you think you would be doing things differently now if that hadn't have happened in your first company?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was a little too weak in the first company. So I mean, you need to stand up and I mean, really fight for what you think is the right thing. But it can be difficult when there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
And I think it's often a mistake in startups that you have too many people involved. They have different opinions, and there's too much arguing, and people get into conflicts, and they, instead of spending their time conquering the world, then they spend the time on infights, internal fighting. So having a small team that is aligned, I think it's really important in a startup. So I mean, this is also when I invest, or if I involved. I think for me, it's very important that you have the same chemistry as the founders, and you feel that there's a basic level of agreement on how things should be done.
Makes sense to me. Thank you very much.